I, 27M, have been dating my girlfriend Edith, 21F, for about a year now, and I need help figuring out if I'm overreacting to a situation that's been eating at me for months. Let me give you some background first so you understand where I'm coming from. Edith and I met at my friend Blake's birthday party last year. Blake, 28M, had invited a bunch of people from his workplace, including Edith, who had just started there as an intern. From the moment we met, there was an instant connection. She was outgoing, funny, and seemed genuinely interested in getting to know me. We spent the entire night talking about everything from our career goals to our shared love of obscure indie movies. After the party, we started dating, and everything felt perfect. Edith was different from anyone I'd dated before. She was spontaneous and brought so much energy into my life. My sister Arya, 32F, was initially concerned about the age gap, but after meeting Edith, even she agreed that we seemed great together. Edith got along well with my family, especially my young niece, and she seemed to fit perfectly into my life. The first 6 months were like a dream. We went on weekend trips together, had regular date nights, and spent almost all our free time with each other. Edith even started leaving some of her things at my place, and we had begun talking about moving in together in the future. I really thought I had found the person I wanted to spend my life with. Things started changing about 3 months ago. Edith came over one evening looking unusually serious. She told me she had been doing a lot of thinking and felt she needed to reach out to her ex, Mark, to make amends. She explained that their relationship had been toxic and abusive. He would manipulate her, control who she could talk to, and even got physically aggressive once when he was drunk. She said she had been in therapy, which she had never mentioned before, and felt that getting closure with Mark would help her heal. I tried to be supportive because I wanted to be understanding of her healing process. But when she showed me Mark's response to her message, things got weird. He had replied saying something like people don't usually stay friends with their exes, and Edith's response caught me completely off guard. She told him that wasn't true because she still regularly hangs out with several of her exes despite being in a relationship with me. This was news to me. In all our time together, Edith had never mentioned maintaining friendships with her exes. When I asked her about it, she got defensive and said they were just good friends now and that cutting them out of her life would be immature. She mentioned 3 guys specifically: Chris, who she dated for 2 years in high school, Tyler, who she was with during her first year of college, and David, who she dated briefly before meeting me. I tried to be open-minded about it. After all, I'm still friendly with one of my exes from college, though we only interact on social media occasionally. But something about the way Edith was handling this felt off. She started being more protective of her phone, changing her passwords, and being vague about her plans. There were several times when she canceled our dates last minute with unclear excuses like something came up or not feeling well, only for me to later see Instagram stories of her out with friends. The situation got even stranger last week. We were on a phone call, just having a normal conversation about our day, when out of nowhere she asked, "Babe, are you worried about me leaving you?" Nothing in our conversation had led to this question, and when I asked her why she would say that, she brushed it off as just random thoughts. But combined with everything else, it set off alarm bells in my head. I talked to Blake about it since he works with Edith and might have some insight. He thinks I'm being paranoid and that being friends with exes is normal these days. He said I should trust Edith and not let my insecurities ruin a good thing. But my sister Arya sees it differently. She was cheated on by her ex-husband who had been just friends with his former girlfriend, and she says she sees the same red flags in Edith's behavior. Last night, I decided to look at Edith's Instagram more carefully. Her profile is public, and what I found made my stomach drop. There were several recent photos of her with different guys I now know were her exes. There was a picture of her and Chris at a fancy restaurant 2 weeks ago, another of her and Tyler at a bar last weekend, and several group photos where she was surrounded by her exes at what looked like house parties. None of these meetups were ever mentioned to me. The most concerning photo was from 2 weeks ago, the same night she canceled our date because she wasn't feeling well. In it, she was sitting very close to Chris at a bar, his arm around her waist, both of them looking cozy and intimate. The caption reads, "Some people just get you, heart," with Chris tagged in it. When I confronted Edith about these photos, she got angry. She accused me of stalking her social media and said I was being possessive and controlling. She said she didn't need my permission to hang out with her friends and that I was acting just like Mark used to. That comparison hurt more than I can express. What really bothers me is how she seems to prioritize these relationships with her exes over being honest with me. She's willing to risk our relationship and breach my trust just to maintain these connections with guys she used to date. I don't understand why she needs to be so close to people she had romantic relationships with, especially when it's clearly causing problems between us. I'm seriously considering ending things with Edith. I feel like I can't trust her anymore, and her recent behavior has made me question everything about our relationship. The secrecy, the defensive attitude, that strange question about leaving me, it all points to something being very wrong. I know she's younger than me, and maybe she's not ready for a serious commitment. But I can't keep living with this constant suspicion and worry. I deserve someone who will be honest with me and put our relationship first. The thought of ending things hurts, especially given how perfect everything seemed at first, but I don't see how we can move forward from this. Am I overreacting by wanting to end things over this? Should I give her another chance to explain herself? I need some outside perspective on this situation because I'm too close to see things clearly anymore. Update 1. It's been 2 weeks since my last post, and I want to thank everyone for their supportive comments and advice. Many of you pointed out the red flags in Edith's behavior and encouraged me to trust my instincts. After reading through all your responses, I decided to have a serious conversation with Edith about boundaries and honesty in our relationship. What happened next was worse than anything I could have imagined. Last Friday, I texted Edith asking if we could talk in person. She agreed and told me to come over to her apartment around 7 p.m. When I arrived, I immediately knew something was off. I could hear multiple male voices and laughter coming from inside her apartment. There was music playing, and it sounded like some kind of gathering was going on. I knocked on the door and heard sudden scrambling inside. The music quickly got turned down, and I could hear whispered conversations and what sounded like people moving around. After about a minute, Edith opened the door, looking flustered. She tried to block the entrance with her body at first, but I could see past her into the living room. What I saw made my blood run cold. Sitting there were 3 of her exes: Mark, the supposedly abusive one, Chris, the one from the Instagram photos, and Tyler. They were all lounging around her living room like they owned the place. There were wine bottles and glasses on the coffee table, and it was clear this was some kind of intimate get-together that Edith had deliberately hidden from me. Edith tried to play it off as just a casual friend gathering, but the tension in the room was unbearable. Mark, who she had described as abusive just months ago, was sitting comfortably on her couch with a wine glass in hand, looking at me with this smug expression. Chris and Tyler at least had the decency to look uncomfortable when I walked in. When I asked Edith why she hadn't mentioned this gathering to me, she got defensive immediately. She said she didn't think it was important to tell me every time she hung out with friends. Friends, that's what she kept calling them, as if I was supposed to forget these were all guys she had been intimate with in the past. What made it worse was Mark's behavior. Throughout our conversation, he kept making snide comments about how controlling I was being. He said things like, "See, this is why you can't have a normal friendship with an ex, and some guys just can't handle their girlfriends having male friends." Each comment was clearly designed to provoke me, but I tried to keep my cool. Chris and Tyler mostly stayed quiet, but I could tell they were watching everything unfold with uncomfortable expressions. At one point, Tyler got up and went to the kitchen, gesturing for me to follow him. Once we were alone, he revealed something that confirmed my worst fears. Tyler told me that these gatherings had been happening regularly for months. Edith would organize them whenever she knew I was busy with work or had other commitments. He said they would drink, reminisce about old times, and Edith would often talk about how she missed aspects of her past relationships. According to Tyler, she frequently expressed doubt about being ready to settle down and would compare me to her exes. The worst part was when Tyler mentioned that Edith had been acting particularly close with Mark recently. Despite her claims about his past abuse, she had been texting him frequently and meeting him one-on-one. Tyler decided to tell me because he felt guilty about the whole situation, especially after seeing how Edith had been manipulating everyone. Armed with this information, I went back to the living room and confronted Edith. The alcohol must have lowered her defenses because she finally broke down. Through tears, she admitted that she had been feeling confused about her feelings. She said she loved me but missed the excitement and drama of her past relationships. Then came the confession that broke me. She admitted to kissing Mark at a party 2 weeks ago, the same night she had told me she was having dinner with her girlfriends. She swore it didn't go beyond kissing, but at that point, I couldn't believe anything she said anymore. I left her apartment feeling completely numb. Blake, who works with Edith and had previously defended her, called me later that night after hearing what happened. He finally admitted that he had been wrong about her and apologized for not seeing the signs earlier. Arya has been incredible through all of this. She immediately offered me her guest room to stay in while I figure things out. She says she recognized the pattern because it was similar to what her ex-husband did before she caught him cheating: the secret meetings, the gaslighting, the defensive behavior. Since that night, Edith has been constantly messaging me. Her texts swing wildly between desperate apologies and angry accusations. One minute she's begging for another chance, saying she'll cut off contact with all her exes, and the next she's accusing me of being controlling and ruining her friendships. Her friends have started reaching out too, trying to defend her actions. They keep saying things like she's young and still figuring things out and you can't expect her to cut off people who were important parts of her life. One of them even suggested that I was being unreasonable for not wanting my girlfriend to be close friends with guys she used to sleep with. I haven't officially ended things yet, but I think we all know where this is heading. I need some time to process everything and figure out how to handle this situation. The trust is completely shattered, and I don't see how we could ever rebuild it. Finding her in her apartment with 3 exes, learning about her secret meetings, and discovering she kissed Mark, it's all too much to forgive. Right now, I'm focusing on taking care of myself and trying to make sense of everything that happened. I know I deserve better than this, but it still hurts to realize that the person I thought I knew was capable of such betrayal. I'll update again once I've figured out my next steps. Thank you all for helping me see the situation clearly. Update 2. It's been a month since my last update, and I've discovered even more disturbing information about Edith's behavior that I need to share. After the confrontation at her apartment, I decided to take some time to clear my head and went low contact with her, only responding to messages about picking up each other's belongings. During this time, several people came forward with information they had been hesitant to share before. The first revelation came from Amy, Edith's roommate. She reached out to me through Instagram about a week after the incident. At first, I was hesitant to respond because I thought she might be trying to defend Edith, but what she told me changed everything. According to Amy, Edith had been doing far more than just hanging out with her exes. She had been staying overnight at their places multiple times over the past few months. Every time she told me she was at girls' nights, family events, or work trips, she was actually with one of her exes. Amy said she felt horrible for keeping quiet, but Edith had sworn her to secrecy, claiming that I was overly jealous and would overreact. Amy shared that Edith would often come home early in the morning, clearly having spent the night elsewhere. When Amy confronted her about it, Edith would brush it off, saying she was just reconnecting with old friends and that I wouldn't understand. She even asked Amy to cover for her if I ever called asking where she was. But the biggest bombshell came from Rebecca, Chris's girlfriend. Yes, you read that right, one of the exes Edith was seeing behind my back was in a relationship too. Rebecca found me on Facebook and shared screenshots of conversations between Edith and Chris that made me sick to my stomach. The messages went back months. They started innocently enough with reminiscing about their past relationship, but quickly turned flirtatious. There were late-night messages about missing each other, plans to meet up alone, and discussions about keeping their meetups secret from both me and Rebecca. Some messages explicitly referred to physical intimacy and planned overnight stays. Rebecca was devastated too. She had no idea Chris was cheating on her until she borrowed his laptop for work and found the messages still logged in. She decided to reach out to me because she thought I deserved to know the truth, just like she would have wanted to know. With this new evidence in hand, I confronted Edith one final time. We met at a neutral location, a coffee shop near my office. When I showed her the screenshots Rebecca had sent me, her whole demeanor changed. Instead of the usual defensive anger, she broke down completely. She admitted to sleeping with both Chris and Mark over the past few months. Her excuses were pathetic. She said she was young and needed to explore her options before settling down. She claimed she was afraid of committing to one person without being sure she wasn't missing out on something better. The worst part was when she suggested that we could work through this if I was willing to give her another chance, as if finding out about multiple affairs wasn't reason enough to end things. I ended our relationship right there in the coffee shop. I told her I never wanted to hear from her again and blocked her number, social media, and email before walking out. But Edith wasn't done trying to control the narrative. She started reaching out to our mutual friends with her own version of events. According to her, I was partly to blame for being too controlling and pushing her away. She claimed that my obsession with her friendships with her exes had driven her to seek comfort elsewhere. Some of our mutual friends actually took her side, saying I should be more understanding of her age and confusion about relationships. Blake, who witnessed some of this happening at work, told me that Edith has been playing the victim, telling everyone who will listen about how I abandoned her when she was just trying to figure things out. She's even suggested that my controlling behavior was similar to what she claimed her ex Mark had done to her, the same Mark she'd been sleeping with behind my back. The whole situation has shown me who my real friends are. While some people have bought into Edith's manipulation, others have stood firmly by my side. Arya has been particularly supportive, reminding me that Edith's actions reflect her character, not mine. I'll post one final update soon to let you know how everything turns out, but for now, I'm focusing on healing and moving forward. The truth about who Edith really is has been painful to accept, but at least I know I'm making the right decision by walking away. Update 3, it's been 3 months since everything happened, and I'm finally ready to share my final update. After blocking Edith and exposing her affairs, I focused on healing and moving forward with my life. However, Edith wasn't done with her games, and things got worse before they got better. In the weeks following our breakup, Edith started showing up at places she knew I would be. At first, I thought these encounters were coincidental, but they became too frequent to be random. She would appear at my regular coffee shop, the gym I go to, and even restaurants where I was having dinner with friends. Each time, she would try to force conversations, acting like she just happened to be there. The situation escalated when she showed up at my workplace one afternoon. She walked into our office building, claiming she needed to talk to me about important relationship stuff. When my colleagues told her I was in a meeting, she refused to leave and started causing a scene in the lobby. Security had to escort her out while she was yelling about how I was ruining her life by ignoring her. My boss was understanding about the situation, but it was incredibly embarrassing. Things got even worse when Edith started spreading rumors about me being emotionally abusive. She told people that I had isolated her from her friends, her exes, and controlled who she could talk to. Some people actually believed her, probably because she's always been good at playing the victim. She even reached out to Arya, trying to convince my own sister that I was the toxic one in the relationship. I finally had enough when Edith's lies started affecting my friendships and reputation. I gathered all the evidence I had, the screenshots from Chris's girlfriend Rebecca, the messages from her roommate Amy about her overnight stays, and text conversations showing her admissions of cheating, and shared them in a group chat with our mutual friends. I also included screenshots of her recent harassment and explained how she had been showing up uninvited at my workplace and other locations. The response was immediate. Most of our mutual friends who had been on the fence or supporting Edith finally saw the truth. Her lies about me being abusive fell apart when faced with actual evidence of her affairs and harassment. Many people reached out to apologize for believing her side of the story. Edith's reaction to being exposed was predictable. She deactivated all her social media accounts and started telling people I was ruining her reputation. Some of her closest friends still defend her, saying I didn't need to humiliate her by sharing private information. But I don't regret showing people the truth. I've since gone completely no contact with Edith and anyone who continues to support her behavior. I blocked her on every possible platform and even changed my gym and coffee shop to avoid any possibility of running into her. Arya has been amazing throughout this whole ordeal, helping me see that I deserve better than what Edith put me through. Blake, who initially doubted my concerns, has become one of my strongest supporters and regularly checks in on me. The whole experience has taught me a lot about trust and self-respect. While part of me is still angry about the betrayal, I'm mostly grateful that I discovered Edith's true nature before things got more serious. I've started focusing on myself, picked up some new hobbies, been spending more time with friends who stood by me, and even started casually dating again. To anyone dealing with similar situations, trust your gut. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Don't let anyone gaslight you into thinking you're being paranoid or controlling for having reasonable boundaries. You deserve someone who respects you and your relationship enough to be honest. This will be my final update. Thank you all for your support throughout this journey. It's been a tough few months, but I'm finally in a better place and looking forward to what the future holds.